Hello, I'm going to give the meanings of the first 8 harmonics. So, for example, here's the birth chart of Buddy Holly. He was one of the early rock and roll musicians, and he was born with Sun and Neptune conjunct, and they are square to Jupiter. So this square aspect we call fourth harmonic. So fourth harmonic is really just another word for square, because a square is 1/4 of a circle. So we think of that fourth of a circle as a 4 vibration. And you can just think of the word harmonic as vibration. It's in a 4 beat, a 4 rhythm. So it's fourth harmonic aspect. One more example, he was born with Moon at 11 degrees Gemini, Mercury at 11 degrees Libra. They're trine. So what harmonic is that? Third harmonic, because it's a third of a circle. So if you take the circle and you divide it, say, into 7 pieces, then you have seventh harmonic aspects. And let me show you an example of that. If I look at this chart of this fellow Jacques-Pierre Amet, he happens to be a French writer. He was born with a conjunction of Mercury and Uranus, and they were only 8 minutes apart. Uranus is 4 Gemini 10, Mercury 4 Gemini 18. Extremely close conjunction. Now, this conjunction is sextile to Pluto. So there's Pluto at 5 Leo, sextile the Mercury and Uranus with about a 1 degree orb. So we call that sixth harmonic. Now let me show you a seventh harmonic aspect. And this is an aspect that many astrologers do not use. So I will right click, go to customize, click on aspects, and click on septiles, and now it's showing me just the septile aspects. Septile comes from the word 7, and it means sevenths of a circle. So for example, Saturn and Pluto are 1/7 of a circle. I know it's 1/7 because I can tell by the distance. It's either 1/7, 2/7, or 3/7. The Mars and Venus are 2/7. Again, I can tell just by the distance apart. And the Mercury and Uranus, both of them, are 3/7 to the Moon. So those are the only 3 possible seventh harmonic aspects. The 1/7, the 2/7, and 3/7, because we always measure in the shortest distance. So there's the 1/7 here between Saturn and Pluto, 2/7 between Venus and Mars, and Moon is 3/7 to Mercury and Uranus. So those are all seventh harmonic. They're all in 7 vibration, and they all have a very similar meaning. Okay, so that's what harmonics are. Now let me just cancel out of this, go back to my PowerPoint. Now let's go through the meanings of the first 8 harmonics. I will go through them here. I also have the meanings in an online book, which is completely free. So this is a great resource. If you go to astrosoftware.com, let me go there. Okay, I'm at astrosoftware.com, and you go to this menu item, articles and videos, and then you click on articles and scroll down. You'll see the book, free online book by me, The First 32 Harmonics of Qualitative Study. And if you click on this, up comes the book. This book is wonderful for several reasons. One reason is that we give example charts. So when I discuss the first, second, third, fourth, all the way up to 32nd harmonic, we give example charts, and those are charts of people who have many, many planets in those harmonics that were picked out by the research features in the Sirius 2.0 software, which is the software I'm running here. And it has these research features that picks out the people with the strongest amount of those harmonics. So the data is not cherry-picked. I'm not picking the charts, and this makes a more evidence-based, a more rigorous astrology. So here's a good review, starting on page 7, of the meanings of the harmonics according to different astrologers. And then we go through and show the charts of the people who have the strongest harmonics. And we've got their chart wheels in here showing the planets in the harmonic and so on. So it's a great resource. In addition, I'm going to explain the first 8 harmonics here with the interpretations that I use. If you want to see what other people say about them, you can refer to the book to get some ideas on that. Okay, first harmonic. First harmonic means conjunctions. What does a conjunction mean? So for example, when I look at the birth chart of this writer, Jacques-Pierre Amet, and I see the Mercury and Uranus conjunct, what does the conjunction do? Well, it makes the two planets identified with each other. But here's the most important thing to understand about conjunctions is that we need to see what other planets aspect that conjunction, because they will completely change the quality of the planets. If I just look at the conjunction, I see Mercury and Uranus, and they're in Gemini. Wow, that reinforces it, because Mercury rules Gemini, super mercurial, super fast, super inventive. We might think he's eccentric or an inventor. He's not. He's a writer. Writing takes time. You have to sit at a desk and think through things and write it out. So why is his Mercury-Uranus conjunction leading to writing? Of course, there may be other things in the chart. We need to look at the whole chart to get a sense of it. Look at what houses are ruled. Some of the things a lot of people do. But even when we do that things, it is still a little peculiar, to me anyway, that this Mercury-Uranus is in the chart of a writer. I would like to be able to look at the chart and immediately get a sense of what the personality of the person is, what their talents are. And when we right-click and we go to that customize and the aspects, and we look at those septiles, and we see that the moon is aspected to the Mercury-Uranus, this is a common aspect for writers, because the seventh harmonic gives people steadiness. It gives attention, sustained attention, the ability to look at things for a long period of time, observe them, feel them, develop your own internal ideas about them. So you can think of seventh harmonic as like the opposite of attention deficit disorder. It gives sustained attention, calmness, and the moon, deep, soulful thinking, quick and fast, perfect for writing. And we see these kinds of aspects over and over and over again in writers, because to be a writer, you do have to be inventive, you have to be clever, but you have to have that sustained attention and soulful depth. And there's the moon coming in with those septile aspects to the Mercury and Uranus, 3/7 aspect. So he has Saturn and Pluto are 1/7, Venus and Mars are 2/7, and moon is 3/7 to the Mercury and Uranus. I can tell just by the distance of the planets, there are only 3 possible septile aspects. So my main point here is that to understand conjunctions, you need to see what other planets are aspecting the conjunction, because they will completely change the quality of that conjunction. And that's what we're seeing here. The moon coming in with this 7th harmonic aspect to Mercury and Uranus, giving it the depth and sensitivity that writers often have. And if we do a more sophisticated harmonic analysis where we look at harmonic charts, we'll see that Venus comes in to this, but I won't get into all that, and that's very descriptive of writers, Mercury-Venus combinations. Anyway, I don't want to get into all that, but my main point is you can see it right here very simply with the moon making these septile aspects to Mercury and Uranus. Okay, but I just want to give you a preview. I'm giving you a little hint that this harmonic astrology, or as I call it, vibrational astrology, we can go into a lot of detail, and I have videos on how to interpret harmonic charts, meanings of the planetary pairs, a lot of information to help you learn how we go into all of this detail. Main point here is it's impossible. I think it's impossible to look at a conjunction and be sure of what it means at all. As soon as you see a third planet aspecting that conjunction, it will change the quality of that conjunction completely. And that's what we have happening with this French writer. Now, second harmonic does give some specific qualities. It gives polarity, me and you. So whenever you see oppositions in a chart, It means there's an interest in relating you to me. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the polarity of second harmonic when we talk about some of the other harmonics, in particular when I talk about the sixth harmonic. I'll bring this up again in a minute. But for now, just keep in mind, when you see oppositions, there's a me and you. How am I relating to other people? How am I relating to the world? Now, third harmonic means trines, and we already know the meaning of trines. What astrologers have been saying about trines forever is true. I don't really have a lot to add to it. The trine is smooth and harmonious. The energy flows smoothly and naturally. One thing I will mention is that grand trines, when three planets are all trine to each other, are not necessarily so smooth. You would think that all those trines together would be smooth and harmonious, but in fact, they're not. And in the book, if you go to the book and read about the third harmonic, you'll see examples of people who are involved in crime and revolutionary spirits, not people on this smooth, pleasant, gentle path, having grand trines. And that's very common because of those midpoint structures. One planet is being in between the other two. But the trine by itself does tend to be smooth and harmonious. And we already know what the fourth harmonic means, squares, except they're not bad and they're not difficult. Some astrologers emphasize them as being difficult. Some emphasize them as being motivating and a force, a drive. I agree with that second interpretation. The square aspects give motivation and drive. They give the desire to do something. You want to make a change. You want to make progress. You want to achieve something with those planets. So you feel challenged and motivated, and there's an opportunity for growth. Now, one of the reasons why squares have such bad reputations is by transit and progression. When a transiting planet is square a natal planet, or a progressed planet is square a natal planet, you often do get disruptions in the person's life. But again, I still don't think the square aspects are inherently just disruptive and making trouble. They're trying to challenge you and motivate you. And you'll see that the square aspects in natal charts are not as difficult to deal with as they are by transit and progression. So it's a desire to do something, to achieve something, to overcome. And when something bad happens, it often is a square. But not all squares create bad things. They're what move you forward. Now, the fifth harmonic, the quintiles and the biquintiles, they give playfulness, experimenting and having fun with the planets. And that playfulness leads to creativity. So if we look at Buddy Holly's chart, one of the early rock and roll musicians, and again, I'm going to right-click, go to Customize, go to Aspects, but this time I'm going to click on Quintiles, and we see the Venus, Jupiter, and Uranus are all in quintile aspects. Venus to Jupiter is 1/5. Again, I can tell just by the distance, there are only two possible fifth harmonic aspects, the 1/5, and then Uranus is 2/5. Uranus is 2/5 from Jupiter, and Uranus is 2/5 from Venus, right at that midpoint, making a symmetrical pattern. And these three-planet patterns, when the orbs are small, and the orbs are small in this pattern, create the fundamental energy flow. And this is one reason why confirming the meanings of harmonics is relatively easy, because they are obvious. You'll see when three planets are aspected to each other and the orbs are tight, and even more so if it's symmetrical like this, it's even more powerful. It'll be pretty obvious in the person's life. So Venus, Jupiter is expressive, it's buoyant, it's social. Jupiter, Uranus is enthusiastic and optimistic. Venus, Uranus is excitable, music and dance and falling in love. So this is a high enthusiasm, excitable, could be musical or dance. And this describes the style of music of Buddy Holly. The wonderful thing about this way of interpreting charts, you can really feel the person. You can feel the energy in the person. You look at this Venus, Jupiter, Uranus, you listen to those hiccups, the way he changes his voice, the upbeat nature of it. It's Buddy Holly. So that gives you the sense of what the fifth harmonic means. It likes to step out of the box. It likes to play. It likes to experiment. Let's see what will happen. He changes his voice. Only I can't imitate it. I won't even try. He's playing around. He's experimenting. He's having fun, uninhibited. So that's the fifth harmonic vibration. And when you put Venus, Jupiter, and Uranus in fifth harmonic, it's going to be it's going to be fun. Uranus in fifth harmonic is going to be fun. It's different than if Saturn's in fifth harmonic. It's a little more subtle. The playfulness is deeper than it is with Uranus. Well, we'll get into the details of the specific planetary combinations in other videos. But in this video, I just want to emphasize what is the meaning of the harmonic. And in the book, I give you the meanings of the harmonics according to other astrologers as well. There isn't complete agreement about these things, but that's what it means in the way that I interpret charts. Sixth harmonic. Sixth harmonic means sextile. And as we know, sextiles are pleasant and harmonious, but I'm going to add one more thought about sextiles. Sextiles want to share. They want to share with other people. Sextiles are inclined to have pleasant conversations and interactions with others. Why is that? Because 6 equals 3 times 2. So you get the polarity of the 2. So to get the meaning of a harmonic, you can find out what numbers you multiply together to get that. It's called factoring, if you remember that from grade school or high school, whenever you learn those things. So 3 times 2 is 6, and we have the 3, the harmonious, easy flow with others. So a trine is harmonious and pleasant, doesn't need to share it with other people. 6 wants to share with others. One example, I remember I gave a lecture once at a conference. Somebody came up to me after the lecture. She said, "Look at my chart. What am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do." I can't look at a chart wheel and say something. But I happened to look at it, and I noticed Moon was sextile Mercury exact. I think it had like a 1-minute orb. What would that mean? Moon sextile Mercury. Well, in another video, I talk about what Moon Mercury means. History, anthropology, psychology, understanding people's moods. To have it in sextile, outstanding counselor. So I said, well, I can't tell you a lot right now just looking at your wheel, but just looking at your chart wheel for a moment, but you are very good in counseling people, teaching, and so on. And she said, "Oh, thank you. That's what I've been thinking." Anyway, there is this sharing quality with sextiles. Now, I've already explained septiles. They are a little bit. I mentioned that it gives sustained attention. So what you get with 7th harmonic, which is the 1/7, 2/7, and 3/7, sometimes called septile, biseptile, and triseptile aspects, is they're quiet, meditative, and observant. And they form their own internal reality. They sit and they watch and they take things in. And because of this sustained attention, they're able to think deeply beneath the surface of things. And they're inclined to abstract and symbolic thinking. They dive beneath the verbal chatter. So if you're at a party and people are just talking, blah, 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 and all this stuff is going back and forth, people with a lot of 7th harmonic aspects don't feel that comfortable in that environment. They would rather step outside. They go out on the porch. They talk with a few people where they can get a little deeper into the thought process. Septiles like the evening when things quiet down. So when the sun sets, we become more meditative. We can think deeper. They like that evening time. They like to read. They like to think through things deeply. Here's an image of septiles. Being on a rowboat or a canoe on a clear, still lake and looking down and being able to see the rocks, plants, and fish at the bottom of the lake. So just imagine that you're out on a canoe, or a little boat, and you're out on this lake, and the lake is really clear, and you can look down, and there are very few waves in on the lake, and you see, and you just start staring. And then the longer you stare, the more you see, and you just take it in, and you feel it, and you go deep into experiencing. It's like a deep intuitive experiencing. And then as you do that, you form your own little world, your own little vision of what's going on down there. So you see people with strong seventh harmonic patterns, they develop their own philosophy, their own way of thinking about things in their own internal world that they build. So that's the seventh harmonic, sustained attention. And sometimes, by the way, the seventh harmonic will lead to mastery. It will lead to like a classic techniques, you might say classical tastes, because of the depth and maturity, because they're still and they're deep, they're mature, and they notice things, and they go beneath the surface. So they don't like all that fluff and chatter. And often you'll see people with seventh harmonic developing mastery, technique. They often develop exceptional skill, and they have a natural talent because their attention is there. So it often leads to talent. It can be in athletics, it can be in music or art, sciences. They just have this deep awareness and maturity and interest in getting beneath the surface and getting things really right. So they appreciate mastery, and they often become masters themselves. You'll see by the planets that are involved exactly what direction it takes. Okay. And lastly, eighth harmonic. And there are two eighth harmonic aspects, the 1/8 and the 3/8. The 2/8, of course, reduces to 1/4, so it's a square of fourth harmonic. And these aspects are sometimes called the semi-square, and the 3/8 is sometimes called the sesquiquadrat aspect. And these aspects are very similar to the square. And people that use these aspects, generally, that's what they say, and I agree with it. They also give motivation and drive. It's an inner drive, feeling challenged to do something. With a square, it's a little more, you might say, externalized. It's a little more visible. With the eighth harmonic, the 1/8 and the 3/8 aspect, it's an internal need, an internal dynamic. So what we have here is when you double a harmonic, you don't change the meaning that much. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 2 times 2, or no, 4 times 2, in other words, is 8. It's the next octave of 4. And octaves have similar meaning. So we will see, for example, that the fifth harmonic, the 10th and the 20th, you take the number 5 and you double it, you get 10. Double it again, you get 20. They're similar. Same thing with 7. If you take 7 and double it, you get 14. You double 14, you get 28. So 7, 14, and 28 have similar meaning. So in other words, if I take a circle, imagine the circle is like a pie, and I'm going to serve it to 7 people. So I cut the pie into 7 pieces. I'm going to get this sustained attention, this depth. If I have 14 people or 28 people, suppose I have 28 people, and I cut the pie into 28 equal pieces, I still have the same basic meaning, sustained attention, depth, an inclination to develop mastery from that depth of awareness and that stillness that the person goes into. The difference is that the higher harmonics are more internal. So I have here in the last paragraph, the higher octave is more internal. By internal, we mean that you've gone within the person, more into their mind, into their inner feelings, and not so much into their outer expression. So in the seventh harmonic, you can see it in the person, in their personality. These higher ones like 14 and 28, that's really where the talent is. And we need these higher harmonics to really understand the person in detail and understand what their talents are. And also, 28 is 7 times 4. So there's a real struggle, the 4, the challenge to get that mastery and that depth. Let me give you a question and then we'll end. What does a 21st harmonic mean? If I take the circle and divide it into 21 pieces, and I have a 1 21st, a 2 21st, those aspects have a meaning. And ask, well, what is it? You already know. Believe it or not, you already know. The meaning of a 21st harmonic, which means you've divided the circle into 21 pieces, is sustained attention and depth and stillness. That is 3, 7 times 3. It's smooth and harmonious. So you'll find people that are skaters, that are involved in sports that are relatively graceful, sometimes swimming, sometimes golfing, because you need that smooth, graceful swing, and skating. We've seen it very often. They'll have 21st harmonic. You see it in tennis sometimes as well. You'll see it in many sports. That smooth, graceful flow and just innate talent. So Steffi Graf, the great tennis player, so many 21st harmonic aspects and similar type aspects in her chart. And they often go to the top because of that natural discipline, you could call it, that natural depth of awareness and focus, and the quiet that they can pay attention and go deep and get it right. Okay, so that's the meanings of the first 8 harmonics. On the next video, let's see, do I have another slide here? Yeah, next video we'll do 9 to 16. So I'm planning to make 4 videos. This is the first in a series of 4. The next one we'll do harmonics 9 to 16 and go over what each of those harmonics mean. Thank you very much, my friends, for listening. God bless. Namaste.